Hi, I'm Madison and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my top 10 steamiest romances of 2021. So I know we're like pretty into January now and I'm posting this stuff, but I did just get back from holiday, so I'm super excited to be filming this. I decided to make this video because as I was trying to come up with my best books of 2021, I was like, there are so many amazing romance books that I've read that I needed to talk about. And I decided to make them specifically steamy romances, so spicier, smuttier romances, mostly because that is what I have a majority been reading over the last 6 months. My reading taste changed drastically over the course of 2021. I've always been someone who loves romance books, always loved smutty romances, but the scales really tipped during 2021 from a lot of new authors that I found, a lot of new genres that I was trying, a lot of new subgenres, a lot of new kinky stuff. So I'm very excited to make this video for you guys. I will kind of give you an idea of like what my steaminess level is, like if it's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. Most of these are a 3 to 5 on like the steaminess scale because these are steamier books. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into them. So number one, which is one of my number one books of last year, is, actually I have this book, Games We Play by Dana Islay. This book changed my life. I love this book with so much of my heart and soul. It's not even funny. Now, the reason is because this is a faceless gamer boy smutty novella. I love this so much. There are triggers in this. I do want to say there are triggers in this, especially triggers to do with a past attempted suicide event and past mentions of an eating disorder towards the end of this. So there's a triggering content in it. It's also extremely kinky. It has BDSM stuff, a lot of sub-dom mentionings, pet play and things like that. I utterly adored it. I could reread this like every month and not get sick of it because I am a huge gamer. I've always loved being a gamer. I follow a lot of Twitch streamers, and in my eyes, this is like one of those romance novels that you read that just feel like your own fantasy. Do I want all the things that happened to the heroine in this to happen to me? No. Am I in love with the guy in this? Yes. I am in love with this hero vehemently. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, like I said, this is a novella. It's super, super short, and it follows this journalist who goes to do an interview of this super famous faceless gamer. And when I say faceless gamer, it means basically he's known for playing and everyone knows his voice, but they never see his face. So if you think of like, you know, for example, Corpse, he is an example of a faceless gamer, and I absolutely adored it. It is their one night together that then maybe turns into a little bit more, and it's part of Dana's one night series, and it is just phenomenal. Phenomenal. One of my favorite things in the entire world. Oh, I would also say that this is a 5 out of 5 on the steaminess scale. Next, I want to talk about Lessons in Corruption by Giana Darling. This is a book that took me completely and utterly by surprise. It is an age gap student-teacher motorcycle club romance. I never thought I would enjoy age gap romances. I never thought I would enjoy a student-teacher romance, and Giana Darling looked at me and said, "You thought," and proved me completely wrong. This is probably like a 3 to 4 on like the steaminess scale. Nothing too kinky happens, but there's a little bit of role reversal in this, a lot of really just great steamy scenes between our characters, really rough play, but nothing that's like too out of the box, which is why it's like a 3 to 4 on the scale. I freaking love the crap out of this. This follows King Kyle Garrow and Cressida Irons. Cressida is a teacher and she is recently almost divorced. She was part of a very abusive marriage with a man who was much older than her. She was kind of like almost groomed from a very young age to be with this man, and finally decided to get out of that relationship. And then one day she comes across this guy inside of a bar, and they really hit it off. And as things progress, she eventually learns that he is King Kyle Garrow, who is the son of the president of the motorcycle club in Canada called the Fallen Men. And it then turns out later on that he's actually 18 years old and is actually a student in her class, in her English class. And it is their romance. It is forbidden. It is so amazing. I think that this is a student-teacher relationship done right, because when she does find out about it, she does like cut things off and is like, this is not okay. But their romance is so amazing, and the age gap is really not that big. Like I said, he's 18, she's like 20, in her mid to late 20s, and I freaking adored it. I adored it so much. King is just such a sweetheart. He leaves her all these like notes and letters afterwards and like will do anything for her. And Cress has been like kind of sheltered her entire life and always told what to do, and it's her coming into her own. And their scenes together are so hot and so palpable. This couple is amazing. Oh my God, because like she tries to be dominant in the relationship, but then in the bedroom he's like, I'm the dominant one here, and she's like, ho, ho. And there's also a library scene. There's a library scene. Amazing. Next we have a quartet that literally took me by storm at the very end of December. I can't even explain, actually I can't explain my reading experience of this series. I have a vlog where I was like, I'm gonna read book 1 in this series and see how it goes. And then 2 days later, I read the entire 4 books in this series, which are each like 500 pages. So the fact that I managed to do that says a lot about how addictive this series is. Probably the one of the most bingeable book series I have ever read in my entire life. Probably because they all end on like god awful cliffhangers that you sit there and you're like, what happens next? But the Madison Kate Quartet is by Tate James. They are actually just got new discrete covers that came out this year, which I'm so excited about. I need to own this series ASAP because I would say this is, a 5 out of 5 on the spicy scale, mostly because throughout the series it gets even hotter and hotter and hotter, all culminating in the very last book with all 4 of them together. This is a reverse harem series. And so by the end of the series, obviously everyone is, you know, together in some scenes together. And there was one scene where I sat there and I go, how does, you know, I was like, my brain was trying to mathematically, yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting to say the least. Anyway, this follows Madison Kate Danvers, and she is like the it girl of this town until she is unwittingly framed for this night called Riot Night, where there was a breakout between 2 gangs and a lot of people died and everyone blamed her for it. She ended up being the scapegoat. And so her dad ended up sending her away for an entire year until bringing her back to town where she could attend university. And she is technically, you know, she doesn't have a criminal record, but she did go to trial, and so people both revere her and are scared of her because of her reputation. And when she finally comes back home, she learns that her dad is currently having this whirlwind romance and is engaged to this woman whose son now lives in the house, and that son is one of the 3 guys who Madison met on Riot Night, who she thinks framed her for everything that went wrong and basically made her a criminal. So she hates this guy, and his 2 friends also live there, so she's stuck living with these 3 guys while her dad and his new plaything are off on like a vacation, and she's like, I don't trust all 3 of you. I hate you all made my life a living hell, and I'm gonna make your life a living hell as well. And those guys are like, you don't actually know what happened, we don't understand what really happened, we didn't try and do anything to you, there's more than you know. And it's her kind of getting entangled with these 3 men, entangled with the gangs that are going on within her town. It is definitely more of like a kind of like organized crime-ish book at the same time, but the reverse harem works out really well. It does get a little bit cheesy, a little bit over the top at times, but it's just so much fun. It was just such a fun series to read. There were so many moments where I was laughing out loud. Madison Kate is such a badass. She's not afraid to like punch a dude and like kick him in the, you know, I can't think of a word to use for the ding-a-ling, but that's what I'm gonna use for now. But it's also exceedingly hot, but the series gets hotter as it goes on, and there are some really great steamy scenes in this, and I love them to death. Then we have Drive Me Wild by Melanie Harlow. This, I would say, is a solid 3 out of 5? Yeah, a solid 3 out of 5 on the spicy scale. This is great if you're a fan of It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, or if you love anything like kind of Legally Blonde-ish, and also if you enjoy Schitt's Creek, because it gave me Schitt's Creek vibes. So you're following Blair and Griffin. Blair is an ex-heiress who is driving a really crappy car in a debutante ball gown as she's trying to make it to this very small town so she can start up her own baking shop there. But she is a horrible, horrible driver and ends up crashing her car in front of a diner in a town beforehand. And when she gets there, there is this mechanic who is in that diner who comes out and offers to help her with her car. And he then ends up offering to let her stay with him because she has no money because she's an ex-heiress due to the fact that her family ended up losing all their money due to some accounting thing that ended up happening and fraud. And so now she's basically penniless and has nothing to her name. And so she takes him up on his offer to live with him while he fixes her car. And obviously they fall in love at the same time. I love this so much because Blair really reminds me of, you know, the main character in Happened One Summer, and also just like, she's this girl that no one thought much of, but she's always had this dream to be like a baker and have her own bakery and make all these sweets. And she does that for like everyone in this town and like begins winning their hearts, even though she really doesn't know much about like life or have any street smarts or know how to really do anything else, but she's very eager to learn, and she's just such a sweetheart and so good natured. And then you have Griffin, and he's this rough and gruff mechanic who, you know, has some very messy history with romance in his life, and he's not prepared to really let anyone in and only does one night stands, but Blair wheedles her way into his heart, and it's so adorable. But this book was really damn hot. I was so surprised. I mean, obviously it's a hot cover, but this is like a small town romance, and so I didn't think much of it. And then it was like balls to the walls, and I was like, oh my God, there's a lot of role play in this, and it is hot role play, a lot of dirty talking as well. And I was like, this is solid. This is very, very solid. This was also so much fun. It was so hilarious. So if you kind of love those kind of vibes, if you love Tessa Bailey, if you love Schitt's Creek, if you love a small town romance, definitely pick this one up. Next we have a duet, and that is the Sinners Duet by Sophie Lark. I had to put this on here because this is definitely a 5 out of 5 on the spicy scale. I love this to death. It has some of the most unique spicy scenes I have ever read, including a scene to do with tattooing. I'm gonna leave it at that. And it is, I loved it. If you're wondering if I did love it, you can tell by all these amazing tabs that I have in this book. Book 1 I gave 4.5 stars, and book 2 I gave 5 out of 5 stars. It is an amazing duet. It is a serial killer romance. So you're following Cole. Cole is a serial killer who is also a very famous billionaire artist. And he is currently in rivalry with this other billionaire artist who is also a serial killer, and they're constantly trying to outdo one another. And then one night Cole ends up seeing this young starving artist named Mara at a show, and he takes an interest in her, and it is his obsession with this young starving artist. And as he tries to take her under his wing and mold her into like his play toy, but also at the same time he begins to revere her and become so obsessed with her to an extent that he falls in love with her and learns that she is someone that he wants to just put on a pedestal and make her life amazing. He wants to turn her into like the best person she can possibly be. But the problem is that when his rival serial killer finds out about this obsession that he has with this woman, the other serial killer becomes determined to kind of get rid of her and, you know, kill her off. So very high stakes. It's very, very, very dark. It's one of the darkest books on this list because there's just messed up crap that happens in this. So do take your triggers seriously. If you have never read a dark romance before, do go into this with caution, because it's just like, he's a serial killer. And also in the beginning, he has no emotions. He's kind of a sociopath, and he is like an obsessive stalker, and he does kind of gross things. And things that cross a lot of boundaries and a lot of lines, which can make a lot of people uncomfortable. But you know what? While there is some messed up stuff that happens in this, it is also one of the most beautiful romances because, like I said, the way that he hypes up Mara is so beautiful. And the way that Mara has constantly been treated like crap her entire life until she meets Cole, and Cole kind of shows her, hey, you have worth, understand that you have worth, and do something about it. And I love that about them. Amazing dynamic. Then we have Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Geissinger. This took me by surprise because I started this book and the first 10% I was like, I don't know. I don't think I like this very much. Hit like the 25% mark and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is like a 4 to 5 on the spicy scale. There are some really great scenes in this. Some scenes with toys. This one does involve toys at one point, which is really great. I love a good toy scene in my books. But this is a mafia romance. The guy is part of the mafia and he has been sent to kill this woman who they think might know something. But when he gets there and he starts kind of observing her, he falls head over heel, like love at first sight, in lust, obsessed with this woman and decides, I can't kill her. And then ends up falling for her, and she ends up falling for him, and it's their romance. And she is someone who 5-10 years ago, her fiance went missing the night before their wedding, and she has never really gotten over that. And now that it's hit the 10-year mark, he has officially been declared dead, and she is trying to still move on with her life ever since that has happened. And then obviously this man comes into her life who is just this forceful whirlwind into it, and he kind of like brings her back into the life of the living, and it's their romance. And I loved it. I was really happy with how the conflict went in this book, because I was very scared, because there is some miscommunication with our characters, because, you know, he's sent to kill her and doesn't say, hey, FYI, I was sent to, you know, kill you. But it ended up being done really well. I thought it was super action-packed as well towards the end. And you do majority of the time follow the heroine's POV. You only get like 3 or 5 chapters from the guy's POV, which also like adds a lot of mystery and intrigue into this. And it's one of those books where like she's a civilian and he's part of the mafia, and how that works out too, which I adored. And this book is also hilarious. One of the funniest books I've read this year. You would not expect it, but our main character, her best friend, is a right and a half. Like, the best friend, in my opinion, almost stole the show for this entire book, and the second book follows the best friend, and I need to read it like ASAP because, oh my god, loved it. Next, we have a book that is like a 6 out of 5 on the spicy scale, and is just, how do I put this? It's nuts. It's nuts. It's not going to be for everyone, and I can't actually explain what this book is about because I don't want to spoil it, because I went into this duet knowing absolutely nothing. And it was at this point when I started reading this duet that I realized, oh my god, I do like messed up shit. So that book is The Devil by Ashley Jade. This, I can't even tell you what it's about, because if you actually read the synopses of this book, it doesn't even tell anything about what this book is even about. It literally says in the beginning of this book is a prelude, and it's best that you go in blind, because this really, yeah, it's a prelude to the second book in the duet, which is called The Devil's Playground. And this is like setting up the backstory of all of our characters and how they meet, and then all the shit that then goes down in the second book and how that all comes together. Some of the most messed up stuff I have ever read. It has almost every taboo and kink you can think of. It is nuts. If you like dark romances, just go into this and pick it up. If you're brand new to dark romances, I would not recommend it, because you might feel like you literally have been crushed by a piano that fell out of the sky. But if you're curious, I highly recommend it. But I don't recommend it to everyone because of how messed up this book is. There's peeing. I'm just gonna say that. I feel like that was one of the most out there bits that I read was the peeing. Anyway, here we have ɪନିର୍sᴛᴏᴜ by Sophie Lark. I have to mention this because this is one of my favorite books of all time, and it is steamy. It's probably the least steamiest out of this entire list. It's like a solid 2.53. I also read this like 8 months ago, so I don't totally remember what the actual steamy level is for this, but I'm guessing it's between like a 2 and a 3 from what I like remember personally. There is like a whipping, like spanking scene in this, which is one of the most vivid scenes I can think of. But this is my very first mafia romance I ever read, and is the reason why I love mafia romances now, and why I now own literally all of Sophie Lark's books. And Sophie Lark is one of my most favorite human beings in the entire world. I love her to death, and this is the first book I read from her. It's ɪନିର୍sᴛᴜ. This follows ɪନିର୍sᴛᴜ, who is the head of the Bratva in St. Petersburg. And then you have Sloane, and she is an American hitwoman living in Russia. And she, at the beginning of this, is given a hit and is paid a lot of money to go and kill ɪନିର୍sᴛᴜ. However, obviously, just as she's about to kill him, he wakes up and ends up taking her as his captive. Now, first off, he sees her and is like, oh my god, this woman managed to get through my entire compound, got this close to killing me, and it's only then that I realized he is impressed by the fact that she tried to kill him. And then she starts to fall for him too, and it is just amazing. They are like my favorite power couple of all time. Like one of my all-time favorite power couples. Like, you don't want to mess with these two. And Sloane is like she's like one of the most relatable like me characters in the entire world. Like one of my favorite characters I've ever read is Sloane. Hands down. She's so cool, so badass. The book starts out with her in the middle of a hit, in the middle of her trying to kill someone, and like her long game and how smart she is, and she's just phenomenal, and I love this so much. While I do recommend this, as I'm reading more of Sophie Lark's books and kind of giving you guys, I'm gonna come out soon with like a guide to how to read her books. This isn't where you should start. You should start with her Brutal Birthright series, but trust me, this is so worth it. You can start off with this, but you'll just need to reread it later on before you head into her third series. So totally up to you if you want to start here, but just a little warning. And last but not least, I have Hooked by Emily Mcintire. Now this book is actually quite surprising it's on this list because everything I've mentioned so far has been a full 5 out of 5 stars. This one here is like a 4 out of 5 stars that I'm actually considering making a 5, only because this book has just stuck with me. It has just stuck with me. It is, I don't know what it is about this book, but it has just lasted. And I think a part of that has to do with that this book really focuses heavily on breath play, and it's also a Peter Pan inspired organized crime romance. So that's why I love it so much. It is a very quick read. The characters definitely feel a bit more juvenile than I would have expected, but I still really did love it. So I'm thinking of bumping it up to like definitely a 4.5 out of 5 stars because it wasn't pure perfection, but I love the crap out of it. Like I said, it is a Peter Pan inspired organized crime romance. You are following this guy who is Hook. He is part of this organized crime gang who kind of rule over Boston, and he has always wanted to get revenge on Peter Michaels, who caused his parents' deaths. And the way that he plans on getting revenge on Peter Michaels is by seducing his daughter Wendy and bringing her to his side. And so it's him seducing Wendy, bringing her to his side, and thinking that Wendy is just as complicit in her father's crimes when she really has no idea what's going on, and it's their romance. And it stuck with me. It's very sexy and smutty, a lot of smutty scenes in this. Like I said, it definitely leans heavily into breath play, and a lot of the praise kink as well as in this book, but I actually ended up really loving it. I think it's actually it's a great beginner dark romance in my opinion. And yeah, those are my top 10 spicy romances of 2021. If you want to hear more about spicy romances, do check me out on TikTok. That's where I have a majority of my spicy romance stuff. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below if you want to see more of me. Please subscribe to my channel, and until next time, thanks a bunch everyone. Bye bye.